No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment, thou shalt condemn. The Holy Soldier is here to deliver vengeance unto all those who would defy the word of God. The special stats for this build are 7 Strength, 6 Perception, 7 Endurance, 1 Charisma, 6 Intelligence, 7 Agility, and 6 Luck. This is a pretty strong and even spread across all the special stats, with the exception of Charisma, because that can always be a dump stat in this game. With this layout you get to be fairly good at everything, and also have a decent level of allocation for implants at the New Vegas clinic. The traits I chose with this build were Skilled and Trigger Discipline. Skilled is always a good one to go for, granting you a boost to all the skills in the game, with the drawback of slightly slower XP gain. Considering New Vegas has a level cap and this build is set at level 20, this isn't really that bad of a drawback at all. The other trait, Trigger Discipline, lowers your fire rate, but significantly ups your accuracy. All the guns this character uses are semi-auto at best, so the reduction to fire rate isn't all that substantial. However, the increased accuracy gives all your guns pinpoint precision. The main skills for this build are Guns and Repair. The gun skill is all about ensuring you can dish out damage effectively. With it maxed out, you not only ensure your accuracy is as good as it can be, but also that the damage output is as high as possible on your most used weapons. Repair really is an essential skill in this era of Fallout games. With it you can stop your weapons and armour from breaking. Without it you'd have to otherwise pay NPCs to fix your gear. Simple skill, but very much needed. The additional skills for the build are Medicine, Survival, and Explosives. Medicine and Survival are all about keeping your character alive. Both improve different types of healing items, and it's really down to your personal preference for which one you prioritise. If you like to keep Stimpaks as your main healing item, then Medicine should be the one you level the most. If you prefer cooking up meals on a campfire and washing them down with some Sunset Sarsaparilla, then Survival will serve you better. Explosives is our other damage skill. With it our grenades will become far more powerful. While guns are the main weapon of choice, there are still a couple of explosive weapons I included with this build, which can be good when dealing with tightly clustered groups. The main perks for this build are Educated, Grunt, and Jury Rigging. Educated is pretty much always a worthwhile perk to pick up in New Vegas, and it's always worth grabbing as soon as possible. If you pick up this perk at level 4, then you'll be able to quickly max out your main skills and bolster your other skills too. Grunt is the main damage perk of the build, granting a 25% damage boost to every weapon you use. An absolute must grab, this will help ensure you are an unstoppable force in the wasteland. Final of the main perks is Jury Rigging, which just makes repairs easier. Rather than needing the same model of weapon to fix it up, you can instead just repair your gear with anything similar. Once you pick up this perk, repairs become little more than an annoyance, rather than something potentially disastrous. The additional perks of the build are Better Criticals, Bloody Mess, Light Touch, Sneering Imperialist, and Travel Light. Better Criticals provides a 50% damage bonus to all critical hits. While this character isn't optimised to get crits all the time, this boost does mean that the odd one you will get dishes out as much damage as possible. Bloody Mess is another flat damage boost. 5% may not seem like much, but it affects everything, and it all adds up. Light Touch is a perk which gives you a better chance of getting critical hits, and makes enemies struggle to land crits against you. However, you only get this bonus when not wearing heavy or medium armour. Not too much of a problem considering that I've already factored that into the equipment, but worth remembering if you decide to alter the apparel in any way. Sneering Imperialist will make you much better at killing raiders of all sorts. An extra 15% damage and a boost to VATS ensures that you can easily rid the Vegas landscape of fiends, vipers, and any local thugs who would dare stand in your way. Final additional perk is Travel Light. Much like Light Touch, this will require you to be wearing light armour, though the bonus this time is faster movement speed. Onto the role-playing perks now, which are arguably the least important, but still worth grabbing when you have a spare perk point. Only 2 perks here, and they are Rapid Reload and Fight the Power. Rapid Reload makes you reload your guns rapidly. Not an essential perk at all, but it's a small benefit to the build and does help to show this individual's familiarity with firearms. Final perk is Fight the Power. This will give you a small damage threshold bonus and an improvement to crit chance when facing those wearing the armour of the NCR, Legion, or Brotherhood of Steel. One of these factions are going to be enemies you regularly tangle with, so the bonus will pop up from time to time. We've got quite a few items to go over in the equipment section, and this time around I'm starting out with the apparel section. The main armour piece this character wears is reinforced gecko-backed leather armour. This is a craftable piece of light armour which gives reasonable damage threshold, but on top of that it also gives a plus 15 boost to fire, poison and radiation resistance, which is nothing to be sniffed at. Obviously the main reason I picked it is that it looks cool, which is always the most important thing when picking an outfit. And on that note, I also picked up some authority glasses and a first recon beret. The glasses are purely a style choice, however the beret improves both your crit chance and perception, both of which are solid bonuses for a character like this. Onto the weapon section now, which is going to be a fair bit longer, so let's jump right in. First is a light shining in darkness, which I'll be honest, I always thought this was called a light in shining darkness, which I consider a much cooler name. Regardless, this is a semi-auto pistol which is great for rapidly dealing with enemies who get too close. Next up we have the grenade launcher. This is the first of 2 explosive weapons and requires a hefty 75 in the explosive skill to wield effectively. Even wielding it at less than optimal stats, this is still the best thing you have for dealing with clumps of enemies. With a large blast radius and strong damage, this can kill multiple foes in a single attack. Before you're able to get your hands on a grenade launcher, you'll instead want to use basic frag grenades. These only require 25 in explosive to use effectively, making them a good choice for dealing with crowds early on. Arguably the weapon you'll be relying on most when playing this character, the Survivalist Rifle is just a really solid gun to rely on. It packs a hell of a punch and should be perfectly accurate for this character. There's only 2 real downsides to this item. The first is the slightly crooked sights, which can be an issue for some players, and the second is the low magazine size of 10. This means you'll probably need to reload several times in an extended firefight, but that's about the biggest drawback to deal with. The final weapon is the All-American, because of course it is. What better weapon for a military and Christianity obsessed individual than a gun called the All-American? This would be the go-to gun for the build, if not for the fact that it has a scope equipped, making it more of a long-range option. On the right side, this now means you essentially have a semi-auto sniper rifle, which ensures every range is covered. The main faction I sided with when playing as this character was the NCR. While the player character's own sense of reality is arguably somewhat warped and slightly fanatical, at their core this character believes in order. They see the NCR as a faction who can rebuild America into what they once read it was, a God-fearing nation with churches as far as the eye could see. How likely the NCR actually is to do that would be debatable, but the Holy Soldier is not exactly the most logical of individuals. In addition to the NCR, this character will also want to head into the Honest Hearts DLC and side with Joshua Graham. Honestly, don't think I really need to go into detail as to why, should be pretty apparent at this point. The follower for this build will be Boone. This highly trained sniper is absolutely deadly, and transforms this build from one who is very strong into one who is nigh on unstoppable. Not only will Boone give you the spotter perk to up your own effectiveness, but he also is more than capable of taking out enemies by himself. It's worth keeping in mind that he will open fire not just on any enemies he sees, but also at any members of Caesar's Legion. This shouldn't be a problem considering our faction choice, but is always worth remembering, especially early on. This build fits into a soldier archetype, being very combat focused and able to deal with enemies at a variety of ranges and in any situation. In an ideal fight, you want to open up with some long-range sneak attacks with the All-American. Once enemies start approaching, switch over to the Survivalist Rifle to try and pick them off at mid-range. If anyone is still alive, then you want to switch to either your pistol or your explosives. When dealing with a group, explosives will be better, but should always be used with caution. If only a single enemy is left, or it's not safe to use explosives, then instead switch to your pistol and execute them. When it comes to role-playing, it's best to make your own choices based on the current vibe so far, as well as what we'll be going over in the backstory. The Holy Soldier was a strange child. It always seemed like there was something missing from the boy. An emptiness about him, just waiting to be filled. He drifted through life until his mid-teens, when he discovered a book. A damaged, burnt, and torn book, with many pages missing, but one that would change his life forever. He read the tattered Bible every night, with a zealous focus on each and every word that remained. It spoke to him in ways that nothing in his life ever had before. He finally had purpose. He finally had meaning. He finally knew what must be done. The boy was now a man, and one with a fire in his eyes. He travelled from town to town, preaching the good word to any who would listen. His sermons were somewhat lacking, however, as many of the words had been rendered illegible over time, and entire pages were missing. Few listened to his shaking voice as he stumbled over half passages and random lines, but his resolve never faltered. His preaching wasn't able to keep him fed, so instead he took whatever work he could that let him travel to new places. For a time he was a soldier for hire, but this presented many moral dilemmas. His proficiency in a fight was well worth paying for, but the incessant questions he would grill his employer with before every contract meant he lost many a job. Eventually he switched career paths, becoming a courier instead. It played less to his strengths, but still let him travel the wastes, once more spreading the good word to the best of his abilities. On one fateful job he was ambushed, shot, and left for dead. When he wakes from this near-death experience, he is not only lost the poker chip he was meant to deliver, but the book he had held so dear was no more. Now on a path of vengeance, he will seek the one who destroyed the most important object of his life, and punish them for their sins. That was my first character build on this new channel, so I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm not sure when the next build will be, but if you want to see it, then make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Leave a like if you enjoyed this build, and feel free to comment below. If you're looking for some more content or a way to support, then you can always check out my other channels or my Patreon page, all listed in the description below. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.